Hello all. Spring has arrived, finally, here in the Northern Hemisphere, although it really doesn't seem that way yet. Still a little cool. I've wanted to do a piece on AI for a while. AI stands for artificial intelligence. It is slowly creeping into our lives everywhere, but the controversy over its use in artistic creation seems to be growing. In the headlines recently was an admission by a photographer that all of his portrait images were generated by AI. No photography involved at all. He had amassed a large following on Instagram because of the quality of his portraits. His images were absolutely wonderful. They were candid expressions and very nicely composed and exposed. But none of them were real. At least, not real photographs. Now, as art pieces, Second, I was recently presented with an ad for a camera remote. It operates the camera remotely, as expected, and provides a wealth of options for controlling the camera from a distance. But then the ad goes on to say this: Meet Arsenal 2, the intelligent camera assistant. Arsenal 2 quickly examines the scene. It uses image recognition to identify environment and subject-specific needs, for example, fast shutter for birds or camera vibration. Arsenal 2 then finds great settings by comparing the current scene with thousands of professional photos using a convolutional deep neural network. Wow. And of course, the AI that everyone is talking about, separate from the above, is ChatGPT for answers to any question about any subject that you have, and DALL-E to create photographic and graphic art by entering a simple collection of words, such as woman on the beach at sunset. And lastly, and perhaps most scary, a revelation that AI can reconstruct images from human brain waves. Researchers trained an AI model to interpret the brain signals of study participants and to accurately reconstruct the visual images that the participants were looking at, only from their brain waves that were recorded separately. There was no hint of Big Brother or robot takeover there at all. Virtually every new release of photography software includes the label AI. Part of me likens it a little bit to the popularity of the words extra strength in over-the-counter medications, something again that many of us older folks are familiar with. It's not just words to convince us that these are better products, but it's also a way to initially separate out the men from the boys. How about instead separating out the latest and greatest from the passé? I have much more to say on this topic, but how about first considering subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed? I bring thought-provoking ideas and commentary on things meaningful to older photographers and videographers. I explore technology and artistry from a senior's perspective. If that's intriguing to you, please hit that subscribe button. Okay, so what exactly is AI and why should you care? The entire evolution of software in the photographic domain has been about making it easy to apply touch-ups and to apply more extensive creative effects to images. In fact, we've been applying touch-up and creative effects since the early 20th century, even before computers and software existed. One of the most famous of these photographic artists was, of course, Ansel Adams, who spent as much time in the darkroom dodging and burning every nuance of his classic landscape images as he did taking the images to begin with. Those processes were manually intensive, time-consuming, and often the resulting photograph had to be repeated if the original impact was just not perfect in his eyes. I won't spend any time on the digital revolution. There's a lot about that already, including some of my own blogs. Suffice it to say that once digital cameras became available, it was only a matter of time before computers and software were able to extend the creative reaches of photographers to touch-ups and to creative effects. The rest of this piece is about AI in photography. Now, we all know that AI is making its mark in so many domains, in everything from law to child rearing. Well, I'm only talking about AI in photography. If you are old enough to remember the first version of Photoshop, initially it was only about corrections. Changing things that were too dark, changing things that were too light, adjusting random elements that should be removed, adjusting the field of view, for example, that needed to be contracted. The features of the very first version of Photoshop included color correction with balance, hue and saturation sliders, image optimization for output, curves, levels, and a clone tool. No layers, no masks, and certainly no AI. How far things have come. The latest version of Photoshop includes tools to automatically select subjects, select the sky, select with a click any random element in the photograph, and selectively apply any of numerous effects to them. But Photoshop also now includes neural filters that access server-based intelligence to enable things like the smoothing of skin, selectively adding blur to creating depth, even adding instant, complete photo restoration. Selections can separate out individual people, or the hair, the eyes, the teeth, or the body of individual people. Much of that intelligence requires a connection to the internet. Why is that, though? Because it draws anonymously on the experiences of every user and compiles those experiences centrally to provide more insightful recommendations to the next user. You can't do that on a standalone device. It is crowdsourcing at its finest. And a variety of plugins exist for both Photoshop and Lightroom to enable more control of AI engines for everything from basic edits in your personal style to complete recommendations on how to finish an image. You can be guided by artificial intelligence and simply approve what's been recommended, or you can simply use these tools, and they are tools, as a starting point for your own creative results. What has caught my attention the most is the reasoning that developers or users of this new technology give for their interest in it. One example is a new camera offering from Canon, a recent one intended for young content creators, the EOS R50. The publicity materials that came out when this camera was released advertise it as a device that requires little or no knowledge on the part of the user. Just point it and shoot to get great results. Similarly, the Sony ZV series or ZV series of vlogging cameras are offered with the same aesthetic. They are perfect for Generation Z or Z. And the Sony A7 IV was released front and center with a new AI chip for subject tracking. You don't have to worry about keeping track of the subject. It will. These offers are based on a single premise. You don't have to worry about the details. You don't have to understand camera operation. You don't have to make choices about settings. You only have to worry about your content and pointing the camera towards it. You don't have to know or care how it actually works. The camera is smart enough to take care of things for you. Interesting. I have a clear dividing line when it comes to the AI that I welcome and that which I shun. Any automation of mundane tasks such as basic exposure in camera or object or subject selection in editing, setting up and refining masks, even whole sequences of actions wrapped up into a single button press, I actually welcome that. Some argue that this is not actually intelligence, but just the latest automation. Okay. Then add in specific decision points to each of these so that object and subject types are differentiated by the engine. Scenes are differentiated. Actions that apply different degrees of a specific effect, depending on those circumstances. Even that I'm okay with. I'm okay with having the machine decide that for me. I've also used tools labeled as AI to pre-select a complete specific look for an image for me as a starting point for ideas on where I might take the image. Some of these smart tools now go so far as to actually study my past image edits and to propose specific looks and to exclude other looks that don't fit my normal style. For example, I tend to like more contrast and punch in my images rather than subtle tones, and these tools are becoming smart enough to recognize that. I must say, though, that this is getting close to the border of AI limits for me. I also have to say, though, that my creative side does sometimes need some help, and having an intelligent, automated partner propose some ideas, well, you know what? That's really a good thing in my view. Where I do draw the line is with any AI that actually creates for me, that introduces new elements into my work or replaces existing elements with others. You can create photographs now, at least they call them photographs, by simply verbalizing your concept into a microphone or typing a few keywords into a data field. Witness our Instagram creator at the beginning of this piece. The software will bring that concept to reality, or maybe not reality, but at least into visual existence. You can add characters or add elements to a scene. You can creatively edit a bland scene and turn it into something totally different by simply telling the software what you would like to end up with. That's not the same as the creativity of a graphic designer that adds tones, colors, and special effects to an existing scene, or creates a composite from many parts. The result offered by these AI creatives is data that existed nowhere until you actually requested it. Some of you will say, potato, potato, data is data, who cares where and when it was created? Okay, in some ways I agree, as long as you don't call the result a photograph. But I guess the same could be said of digital images when they first appeared. Many film shooters absolutely refuse to acknowledge these new forms of images as photographs and the makers as artists. It is a dilemma. In fact, a long-standing one. Ironically, an open letter purported to be signed by the cream of the crop of AI creators, including Elon Musk, that warned of the uncontrolled development of AI, has now proven to be somewhat misleading and false, at least in terms of who actually supports pausing the pace of AI development and implementing more controls. Ironically, it appears that the advanced technologies so capable of producing these fakes appear to be incapable of detecting them, such as this fake letter. So maybe we do need a pause. At the end of the day, though, these technologies will continue to appear. They will get stronger and become more widely used. Each of us will determine where our comfort levels lie. We won't be able to avoid them unless we just avoid creating altogether, turn off all the gadgets, and go back to reading books and drawing with charcoal. Don't take it from me. Just ask Google or ChatGPT. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content to come. And please tell me in the comments below where you sit on the spectrum of AI. We will see you again soon.